Okay, it's day 262 off the grid, the day after the vernal equinox, therefore the very first day of spring. Of course, that's the true day of spring, not some colloquial kind of ascertained date like the 1st of September based on the calendar. This is the day after the spring equinox, so it is the first day of spring. So, what have I been doing today? Well, me and Baffy went in to live in and got some of Amon's presents. We decided what we were getting for Vicky and Amon for their birthdays, which are coming up. But I will not mention exactly what I'm doing with that here because they may just see these videos. After all that was done and the boys were returned, after a while I got back to doing some electronics. So that's what of course I'm going to describe here. This of course is my Realtime PWM Divert controller. Well, just the power stages of it that are driven by a little stecker charge controller. And I've got to the point where it's pretty much complete and ready to be installed. See, there's the circuit board that's mounted on the baseboard there. I've installed an LED, which is handy, and I'll show you that in a minute. There's a terminal block there to take the small signal connections in and out, and I've mounted these diodes. Well, these are crazy, these things. This here's like a double diode, this one here, and this one here is actually a transistor, which I've just simply wired as a diode. I would have preferred 2 diodes, but that's what I had, so that's what I used. I've got lots more of these transistor things. I have no idea of the ratings of them whatsoever. They look pretty meaty, but have no idea of the dissipation, have no idea of the collector current. But I think it'll be good enough for what I'm doing here, and I have used these diodes before on my solar setup. In fact, I'm currently using them on another part of it, so I've got a bit of faith in them, despite the fact I know very little about them. Now, that being said, yeah, what else have I done that's different? I've also decided the spare MOSFET in the middle. Initially I was going to try and use that as a sort of a switched low voltage drop diode, but I decided not to muck around with that, so I've merely paralleled it here so that the main battery is going to have a slightly lower on resistance situation there, and those MOSFETs aren't going to be worked as hard because they're the ones that are usually on. But however, the current circuit is actually making do with one of those exact kinds, so it's possibly overkill, but overkill's good. So yeah, what I've got here is I've basically completed it to point, and I'm basically just doing a bench test of it to make sure that it actually works, to the point where I actually have a charger connected through. It comes in through this red clip here. I should connect it to that terminal there, but I've just clipped it onto the heatsink because that is the positive terminal from the charging input from the solar panels. So basically this battery under here, that's my main battery. This is the boost battery. This is the secondary battery to be charged, and this little 9-volt battery here is simulating the output from the charge controller. So currently, as you can see, nothing is connected to it, so we are in the position of the main battery is charged. The charge controller is not putting any pulses into the main battery because it's really charged. So the secondary battery is getting all the juice, and I've got a meter squealing at me. I'll just let it go off by itself. I've wired this light bulb up across the secondary battery for 2 reasons. One reason is because, so when I make this video for you now, you can see actually what's actually happening, because you can't really see when voltage is being switched on and off to a battery. And the other reason is because this battery is so weak, it's pulling hardly any current. These are just crappy, sort of beyond their use by date SLAs. And I wanted to draw a bit more current through that side so I could actually see it on my clamp meter. Right, finally that meter's shut itself off, and now it will shut itself up. So yeah, all the current's going into the B battery, the secondary battery. So if I take this clip here and connect it here, two things will happen. Let's get it. One, of course, the light will not go out, it'll go dim, because now it's just being run off the power in the battery, because the battery's not being charged. And two, this little LED will come on. Now bear in mind the LED will actually be brighter, because when it's in the final install it will actually be running at 24 volt circuit. I'm just testing it here with a 12 volt circuit for convenience, otherwise I'd have to double up the amount of batteries I had hooked up. So now it is charging the main battery, the one under here. This would be the situation, of course, in the mornings when the main battery's been running the fridge and whatnot all night and it's a bit low, and of course the charge controller just turns hard on. And in the afternoons, at some point, the charge controller will more or less turn off, and we'll have that situation. But of course, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in between. At some point, the charge controller is going to start pulsing like this. And even maybe like that. I can't exactly simulate it, but you can get the idea. The point being is that this circuit being entirely solid state rather than a relay, it can respond to these super fast pulses and react exactly in real time, hence the real-time charge controller. So I'm just simulating the charge controller sending out a pulsy signal. So during the on pulses, the main battery gets the current, and during the off pulses, the secondary battery gets the current. So when it's sort of 50% on and off duty cycle, both batteries are getting the same amount of current, you could imagine or expect. But the solar panels are supplying current 100% of the time, and that's the whole point of the circuit. During the off phases of the PWM controlling the main batteries, the secondary batteries get the power. Thus, no power is being wasted, up until the point, of course, when the secondary batteries are also fully topped off. But the beauty of the circuit, in my opinion, is that it doesn't upset the charging pattern any further than normal solar charging does for the main batteries. Of course, solar charging is not really the nicest way to charge batteries, because it's unpredictable. A cloud could come over, a load could come on part way through charging, so you can never do that nice three-stage charging thing where the whole purpose of the current is just to charge the battery, and the battery gets charged up over a nice, 3 stages of charging. Solar power doesn't really do that. But this, to me, I'm really happy with this, because the battery bank I've got on that 24 volt system doesn't hold as much as it ideally should, so those panels are spending a lot of the day in waste, basically. There we go, flickety, 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 flickety. It's quite satisfying, really. Look, it's getting a little bit stronger now. It's being charged, but these batteries are really not good. But they're fine to test the circuit, and of course if something had gone wrong, the fault current will be smaller too, using clapped out batteries. So that's it, day 262 off the grid, which has just turned into night 262 off the grid, the day after the spring equinox.